Before he died, Steve Jobs shared this secret that he had a commencement speech in Stanford, and he gave the most important secret, basically, that he discovered for business and achievement. And I want to share that with you today. And also, I want to share with you a very important lesson for entrepreneurs, for achievement, for success. How do you succeed? And the biggest difference between people who succeed and people who don't. Um, and so let's get started, guys. So this is episode number 8 of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. So Steve Jobs, this is near the end of his life. He gave this speech on a YouTube video, and I highly recommend everybody to see it. He talks about a lot of the lessons. He's a remarkable person who, had a very unique experience in life and achieved unique things. So very interesting to hear his perspective. But basically, he said that, his speech is entitled "How to Live Your Life" or something like that. If you just search Steve Jobs commencement speech, we'll add a link to in the notes for you guys. So, but this is one thing that when I first heard it, I didn't understand it. I later understood it, as an entrepreneur. And he said this. He said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. Okay? You can't connect the dots looking forward. And that you need to take a risk. And he said that you need to basically kind of move forward and just have a belief. Have a belief that things will connect down the road. Right? And if you study the history of Apple and the history of entrepreneurs in general, you find this concept to just repeat over and over and over again of people really not having a predestined plan, right? But just moving forward and then figuring it out, moving forward and finding the way. And then just that's how they arrived. And a lot of features in the Apple, when they released the Apple phone, for example, most of the features did not even work. They did not work. They were using dummy phones. They were using fake phones. It was in a way partly a hoax, right? But so they didn't have a completed product. But what they did have is they had this action, right? They took action. They were moving forward, and they were moving forward towards their goal. And they were like, we're going to do the best we can. And then, just yesterday I was listening was how the first iPhone, it didn't even have copy paste, right? They didn't even have that features in the first phone. So that's a very basic feature, but they didn't have that because they took action, right? And then there's what's his name, the entrepreneur from South Africa, the one with the Virgin Airlines. What's his name? Anyway, he his motto is "Screw it, let's do it," and he's one of the richest. Branson, right? Branson, one of the richest billionaires in the world. He has like 500 companies because he partners up with everybody, and that's his motto: "Screw it, let's do it." And in fact, look at Steve, Steve Branson. No, just let's call him just Branson, right? Look at Branson, and I've read his biography, and I've read several books of his. It's not Steve Branson. I forget. It's hard to remember when you're talking, but so Branson, he started off with a record label, right? And that's what they were starting this record label. But look where he ended. He ended up with 500 companies in all these different industries, right? So, and later the Virgin stores, they had a big financial problems, right? It wasn't a smooth ride at all. And ultimately, the success now they have is from the Virgin brand. It has nothing, has very little to do with the original thing. But that was the key that allowed him to succeed. He took action. He moved forward, right? He did not just stand and sit and wait. He didn't wait for things to appear right. And I want you to stop and think in your life, how often What are things that, we procrastinate on because we feel we're not ready, right? Or they are not ready, right? We need more information. We need a better plan. We need more of something, or we need less of something, right? So many things we don't do them because we feel we're not ready, we're not prepared, we don't have enough time. But you look at, Bill Gates, for example, how he got started was he called IBM and he told IBM, "Hey IBM, I have a software for your computer. Okay, I have it, and do you want it?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course we want it." And they set up a meeting with him, and basically he started programming, and he didn't have it. Okay, that's what we found out. He did not have it. He basically lied. But then once they said, "Okay, great, let's meet." Then he started programming. He started getting to work on programming, and then the next 2 weeks he programmed something, but it didn't even work properly. But then he ended up buying the software from another programmer, and that's how Microsoft DOS came to existence. That was his first software, his first product that was successful. But he did it just basically on just a crazy, imagine if you were to call IBM or you were to call somebody like, "Hey, I have the thing ready." Other people will be like, "You're crazy. You're just insane. How would you do that? You don't have this thing." But you look at the most successful people, and that's what they do. They jump first. And the metaphor I like to use is, what I like to do, I like to just throw, and this is why these podcast episodes, for example, I record them live, basically. So this way I'm forced, I either, swim or sink, right? There's no safety net. And so the metaphor I like to imagine is I kind of having an anchor, tying an anchor around my body and then throwing the anchor out the window, and then that anchor now it pulls me out, right? And that's what I do in my business and my life, and I don't do it in every area, right? I'm not adventurous. I'm not a risk taker in every area, but when it comes, because here's the thing, it requires energy, right? To take risk, it requires energy. It's not our natural thing. Nobody wakes up, "Oh, I'm going to take a big risk today and do something where I'll probably fail and maybe get hurt." It's not, right? And some people do that with their adventures, right? The physical adventures, they go scuba diving or mountain climbing, right? They're taking risks, which I don't do. But they do it, but because they're passionate about it, right? And it's that passion that drives them. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't just go and take those risks. So you have to be selective. You have to focus. But the thing that's important for you, let's say it's your business or some area of achievement, you have to take risks and you have to push for it. And you have to literally force yourself to go ahead before you're ready. And the most important thing is, did I talk about this in another episode? I don't know if I did, but it's such an important concept that's worth repeating, that that the most important thing is to set these precedents, right? Set these new milestones, to just break the routine and kind of expand your circle, your comfort zone, right? And you look at these entrepreneurs now, for example, like Branson. He's thinking, how do I add billions to my business, right? Because to him, he's not thinking, how do I add $20 to my business? He's thinking, how do I add $1 billion, $20 billion, whatever, right? Because that's the level he's working at. But he arrived at that level by constantly expanding, and he just constantly took risks. So guys, that's really the key. That's the lesson that Steve Jobs shared. Is you have to take risks, you have to believe, and just keep moving forward. So if any of you find yourself ever stuck, you find yourself confused, it's good to plan, it's good to organize. Those are important things. But for me, my formula is 80% action, 20% planning. If I spend more than a day planning, that's too much. That's too much. And I would spend a month planning. I used to spend a year planning. So it's not. I'm not a natural risk taker. I'm in fact the opposite. I'm a natural, planner, and a natural person that holds back. So, but I've learned this lesson, as an entrepreneur, developing myself as an entrepreneur. When I was holding back and over preparing, I would fail. I would fail. But this pushing forward, it caused me to succeed faster and faster and faster. So, guys, that's really the key today. Start taking action and force yourself. How do you force yourself to go get to the next level? So that's it, guys. Let me know what you think. As I said, as I always say in all these episodes, half of the conversation or half of this episode is, this lesson, this is stories that I share with you. But really, the other half is in the comments, in the discussions. I really want to hear from you guys, and that's what is important for me. So anyway, that's it for the episode. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.